Hello everybody and welcome to This Nintendo Life episode 297. My name is NBZ. I'm here, I'm clogged up with hay fever. I've spent 8 hours on the Eurostar in the last 2 days and I'm ready, Valley, for the next generation. Yeah, well, so it's 4 hours to Rotterdam and there's 4 hours back from Rotterdam.
Oh, geez,
so
okay.
The journey was basically going there for a brief thing and then coming back. So it was a very whirlwind trip, but it was good. I've never been to Rotterdam before. Obviously, I've been to Amsterdam many times, as everyone knows. I lived there when I was age 1 to age 3, is where my sister was born. But we've never been to Rotterdam before. And it's good. I mean, it's very much the Netherlands. Looks and smells and sounds like the Netherlands, and has everything you want. You got trams, you got bicycles. You got bitterballen, everyone's favorite. So yeah, it's a good time.
What is bitterballen?
Bitterballen is a delicacy. Would I call it a delicacy? I mean, it's a dish. I would call it like an aperitif maybe. They are balls, and inside the balls is like some kind of thing, whether it's like a beef thing or like a but it's like a not a mush, but kind of like that, kind of like something that's been blended a little bit, but it tastes really good, and you dip it in mustard, and it's very nice. It's very flavorful. I'm doing a bad job.
This is an awful description.
Any of the Dutch people in our audience, please feel free to email the show. Tell us about the joys of bitterballen and why Bally should eat them. I didn't have bitterballen.
It's round, deep-fried balls made with a thick meat ragu and often served with mustard. Oh,
ragu, that's a good description.
Nice.
Yes, a meat ragu is the best phrase for it. Yeah. But they do croquettes as well. That often also have similar fillings. So I did have a beef croquette that had the beef ragu inside, and it was very nice. So yeah, I recommend next time you're there, Bally, out in the Netherlands. Have you ever been to the Netherlands before?
Yeah, lots of times. I mean, lots isn't an exaggeration, but yeah. I went on a choir and orchestra trip with our school to the Netherlands.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and
okay,
that was
very cool.
Not much fun by being in both the choir and the orchestra. I had like no downtime, but yeah. And then I've done a couple other trips.
Well, you enjoyed the joys of music, you know?
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
There you go. Well, here we are, Bally, on the eve of a brand new video game console. It doesn't happen often. Has happened once in the entire lifetime of this show. The show's been going 11 years now over that. This is the second console launch that we will be discussing, because the Wii U was out when we started the podcast.
Yes.
So yeah, this is although we were pretty close to its launch. We were like 1 year out of Wii U having come out. So if we started the podcast a year earlier, this would have been our third. But alas, we were not able to do so. But yeah, I don't know. It's a weird energy out here. There's Summer Game Fest is happening. I'm very busy because we have like 4 different things at not at Summer Game Fest itself, but the entire weekend. There's lots of different things happening, and all the journalists are going out there and trying to figure out how to get their Switch 2s. Nintendo's not sending anybody Switch 2s at all, so it's a bit of a mess. How you feeling about it, Val? You ready?
Yeah, it's very low key, and like the fact that Nintendo didn't do like review copies of the consoles, and as a result not any of the games, means that I'm just thinking Nintendo don't actually care that much about launch, and that holiday is 10 times more important to them. That's kind of how it's feeling. And as you say, the journalists, they're kind of like the echo chamber that I listen to, and they're all focused on Summer Game Fest, and there's probably only a niche of journalists I follow who are properly into Mario Kart. So it kind of results in a bit of a damp squib. I don't know. Is that a fair summation?
I think so. I think it's going to be interesting when it comes out, seeing what's going to happen and how. I mean, as soon as it does, everyone will be streaming Mario Kart. It'll be big, right? It will. I think the mainstream, the more casual people are going to be out there talking about it and getting excited, and I think that will cause a lot of conversation. But the thing I'm most curious about is so some people have early copies of the Switch 2 not through Nintendo giving them to anybody, but through retailers being like, oh yeah, here we go, here's one, and stuff is leaking about it.
But then they can't boot them up because it's not. You need to connect to the internet.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like, Nintendo have leak-proofed the launch of their console by being like, you need a day one update in order to access anything here, so we have no idea what the eShop's going to be or any of that stuff. We kind of do because they have teased some stuff.
Are you going to go into other apps before booting up Mario Kart?
This is a great question, Bally. I am a look around. I'm a look around person. I'm a settings menu. You know, when I boot up a PC game, what's the first things I do?
You're a PC gamer, is what you're trying to describe.
I go to options. I click on graphic settings. I look at what is the custom, what's been set up, and then I fiddle with stuff. And then I start the game. And the first hour of me playing any PC game is not actually me playing the first hour. It's me playing a bit for 3 seconds, opening the menu, turning down shadows, playing again, getting my frame rate, you know. So, yeah, by which I mean I'm a tinkerer, as we all know, like going on the Steam Deck and just making, like, okay, here's a good example. Like, maybe a month ago, I downloaded the 3DS, I figured out a way to get the English fan translation of a 3DS only visual novel made by the people who did 428 Shibuya Scramble, which is a visual novel that released on Steam that I've had on my wishlist for a while, but is well liked by people in the visual novel community, specifically Matthew Castle of the Back Page podcast fame, who obviously we know from his days on Nintendo's official magazines, whether it be Official Nintendo Magazine or Endgamer or things like that. Anyway, so I heard about it through him, and then I've realized that that company also made a 3DS only, Japanese only visual novel called Time Travelers, and I was like, well, I saw this randomly on Twitter. What am I going to do? I'm going to spend 3 hours of my evening figuring out how to set that up. And did I play the video game? No, and I have not yet gone back to play the video game. Did I set it up so that I had the English fan translation and had it all ready to go? You fucking bet I did. So anyway, I think that answers the question, Bally. Will Mario Kart World be the first thing I click? No, I'm going to go in and see how many themes there are. Of course, that's what I'm going to do. So, to which the answer will be there's only 2 again, because Nintendo hate us and are the worst people in the world. So, anyway, yeah, I imagine Vanilla Bally will click the Mario Kart thing and just go and play the game. So
I'm going to go into Mario Kart and I'm going to play as Mario. And I'm going to go through each course systematically.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to have a good time. It's going to be great.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll be talking about Switch 2 in a couple of weeks, because we're going to play it, we're going to digest it, and then we're going to come with our next episode. But I'm going to try and do this this kind of like diary thing. So you'll probably hear me. I'll probably do an audio unboxing. I don't really upload videos these days, you know, so I might just audio unbox myself and then go through the setup process, just talk about it as I go through it, just give you a little bit of a Switch weekend diary. So that'll be fun. And then we'll talk about Mario Kart and I'm sure Welcome Tour and all these other things next time. But Bally, it's not the world we live in. We live in a world where the Switch 1 is the only console left on the planet, and we have things to talk about it on this show. So you want to tell the fine folks what our plan for today is?
For the first segment, we're going to talk about the games that we have been playing, and for the second segment, we thought we'd do a little look back at Nintendo console launch history. So we're going to be looking at all of the launch lineups from Nintendo's previous consoles, and we're going to do a ranking of the best console lineup to the worst, I guess. So that should be fun.
I think so. Yeah, so look forward to that in the back half. But let's get to it with video games, what we have been playing. And there have been some good things coming out recently, but one of the newest and sparkliest is a DLC for a game that we both very much enjoy, a game that came out a couple of years back. And Bally played it last year. I played it the year it came out. But it is Sea of Stars.
So it was my goatee Dakota last year.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it was number one for Bally. So he very much enjoyed it. And so this is the free DLC for Sea of Stars called Throes of the Watchmaker. So I feel like when it comes to DLC, I'm very hit and miss with it. Sometimes I'm like, oh yes, I would like to go back to that game. It's been a while. And other times I'm like, oh god, it's going to be really hard going back to that game because I've forgotten everything about it and it's complicated and it's got all this stuff going on. I would say Sea of Stars is one of those situations where I didn't feel too bad going back to it because I felt like I could get back into it relatively quickly. It's not an overly complex game. But I do want to say that like this is maybe the best onboarding that I've seen for a DLC getting into, that is kind of like it's still positioned within the world of the game. Because oftentimes what happens, right, is, sometimes you have DLCs that you start and it's like, I'm just going to start a brand new thing. So like Prince of Persia, is a great example of that, where the DLC for Prince of Persia is a separate thing in the menu. Actually, is it? No, it's not. I'm lying. Prince of Persia, I think you do have to access it through the world, but it's quite easy to do so, and you can find it quite easily. But there's definitely examples out there of you can access DLC through a separate thing as opposed to be part of the world itself.
I prefer that when it's just a menu option.
I do as well, yeah. Like, I guess Final Fantasy VII Integrate, the Yuffie DLC, that's a good example where that's completely standalone and it's a different time period, and it's kind of happening concurrently to Remake. So anyway, that was its whole own menu and whole set of things. And the nice thing about that is it's like, okay, I don't need to remember anything. It's just going to put me back in, and I'm just going to kind of start from scratch, essentially. Learn this new character, learn this new stuff. I would say Sea of Stars has one of the smoothest onboardings for a game that doesn't do that, right? So you do have to go back into the world, and you have to load up your, like, last save file. And, of course, my last save file is right before the final boss, and I'm like, oh, God, how am I going to, like, get back?
File.
You do. So you can't play this without having played through the game or finished the game or gotten to a certain point. You have to have gotten up to a certain area because there's a character.
I'm hoping that on Xbox it keeps the save file when you like delete the game off the console. I'm assuming it does.
Generally speaking, when it comes to that stuff, the save files are kept separate from game data. PlayStation is the same, where they have a separate save location from actual game storage. So it should be, well, at least for me on the Xbox app, it worked seamlessly. Like, it just, I re-downloaded the game and my save file was right there, just like I left it. So yeah, you should have no trouble at all if you wanted to check this out. But yeah, you basically leave the final boss area, go out onto the world map, and immediately it's like, oh, here's an item for you, and we can go take you back to your ship right now if you want. And you click yes, takes you back to your ship, start setting up the story, and it's like, oh, that's convenient. We just invented a teleporter on our ship. Great, let's go into it. Teleporter takes you straight to the area that you need to go to, which otherwise you would have had to find the area, go into it, walk through a bunch of enemies and stuff to get there. But they teleport you straight there. You walk in, you go through, and you enter the brand new area as part of this DLC. So, setup for this is that you have been tasked with going into a kind of Clockwork world. There's this thing inside, and you need to fix it, and some bad stuff has happened, blah, blah, blah. Relatively simple story. Sea of Stars was never a literary masterpiece, let's say. I think it's quite simple in terms of its narrative. But you're tasked with jumping in this world, and it is very much circus themed. So it's you kind of like get in there, and it's like there's a circus tent, and there's lots of enemies who are kind of clown style, and the main antagonist is like kind of a circus master with like a whip and everything and the hat. So a lot of the areas, a lot of the enemies are inspired by kind of like circus stuff. So there's like a cannonball that will shoot things at you, or jugglers who will juggle things and throw them in the air and toss them at your characters. But the separation as soon as you go into this new world, basically Zale and Valir, your two characters, they have their kind of like moon powers and sun powers in the main game, but as soon as you enter this world, they are stripped of those powers. It does a classic Symphony of the Night where it's like, oh haha, I've taken all your stuff, or Samus at the start of any Metroid game. It's like, whoops.
Do they become the alternate sun and moon, or is it new powers entirely?
No. So keeping on that circus theme, they essentially get circus powers as well. So Valir's like, they have like a default kind of stance before battle where they're just kind of like doing that idle animation.
Yeah.
So Valir now does a handstand permanently. So just when she's just sitting there, she's just like on her hands, just like ready to go. And so she gets abilities like trapeze, where you start swinging like a trapeze artist and like swinging across enemies. She has a pole vault, which is like you hold down the button, and when you hit the peak of the tension of the pole, then you let go and you spring into the air and dive down. And then Zale gets a juggling kind of like he's like a fire juggler, so he just tosses fire things at enemies and like juggles them back. And yeah, I can't remember his other one, but basically those two characters get circus themed moves. And so the nice thing about it is that I feel one of the criticisms of Sea of Stars was at the beginning, or like throughout the whole game, you had 4 abilities for each character, and so you really weren't unlocking a lot. You're using the same move so frequently again and again, and there wasn't much variety there. This time you still have those 4 move slots, but because the game's only 8 hours long, or like 7 hours long, it's really short. You're not feeling that sense of, oh, I'm just fighting loads of battles, or I'm doing the same thing again and again, because you are getting new moves a little more frequently than you were before. Not rapidly, but it's definitely better paced in terms of giving you new stuff. So you have those two characters, but then you have a third character who joins you, who is the Artificer. They call him Artie. I think he was in the main game. I don't really remember him, but he's like a purple robot guy. And I think he's made up of like parts from 3 other robots. And so he has this thing where he talks to himself in his head, where he's actually talking to the other parts of himself, basically. So he's a fun character. He basically has like a laser cannon on his arm, and so he doesn't really adhere to any of the circus stuff. He's just like, I'm going to shoot a laser now. Although, yes, one of his moves is a cannonball thing where he shoots cannons in the air, and then you have to move around the battlefield to like bounce them off the ground, which is quite fun. And then some of the combo abilities are like Zale and Valir jump in the cannon, and then you're bouncing them onto the enemies as well. So yeah, there's some fun stuff that goes on there as well. So yeah, you have those 3 characters, and they all have different moves now. And they changed the level ups up as well. So instead of like assigning points like you kind of did in a Paper Mario style of like +1 this, +1 that, now you just automatically get level. So you don't even really have to think about it. And to be honest, I think that was one of the weaker parts of Sea of Stars. It's like, okay, I don't really care about where these points go into, but I guess I'm just going to put them into this or that. So yeah, I think it streamlines things a lot better in that sense and makes it.
But even Clair Obscura does that as well. You pick the specific thing you want, and does it make everyone vanilla? Everyone can be anything? I never fully understand those kind of systems, sometimes.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Expedition 33 as well is that it has the From Software style thing of like your weapon has A or C, and so if you invest more in that stat, that weapon damage will go higher because it has a higher, it's like proficiency or something. Yes, and I've never really understood it in the From Software games or Elden Ring specifically, and I didn't really care too much about it in Expedition 33 either. But anyway, this is much simpler. It's like, hey, here's your level up. It's much more like Pokemon. It's like, here's your level up. Here are the numbers that went up. There you go. Be happy. Move on with your life, right? So yeah, I think that's quite good. So I think cool things about this DLC, visuals and music are still as exceptional as ever. I think the game looks fantastic and has like a fun world map where you're using a train. It calls back to Final Fantasy VI. Obviously we talk about Sea of Stars is very kind of Chrono Trigger inspired, but they clearly love other classic RPGs, and so one of the first boss fights you do is against a moving train, and it's the exact same thing. And it's like, and then it finishes by someone suplexing it because of course, so they are nodding and referencing there, which is fun. But you get that train, and then you use that train to go to the different areas, and there's basically 4 main areas. You have your hub town, and then you have kind of like 3 major spots you need to go to in order to clear out the corruption or whatever's going on there with the circus world. So yeah, looks great, sounds great still. They've definitely ramped up the difficulty. This is a lot harder, I would say, than the main game, and to a degree that I didn't really appreciate. I think one of the things that Expedition 33 has spoiled us on, Bally, is this whole idea of parrying, doing 0 damage to your characters, means that there is an incentive to get...
We did ask this question, didn't we? We were like, does Sea of Stars actually negate the damage entirely? And so is the answer, it doesn't, it just reduces it.
The answer is no, it certainly doesn't. And the answer in this DLC is no, it doesn't, and it doesn't even matter. So, okay, here's an example, right? I perfectly block an attack. Okay, my character has like 45 HP. I perfectly block an attack. The perfectly blocked version of the attack does 46 damage. So like, I was feeling like I was like, okay, I'm doing well, I'm blocking, but I still die even though I've done well. Like, that's a bad feeling, right? You don't want a player to be like, I blocked, but I still died. What was even the point,
So you were just under-leveled, or what was going on?
No, I don't think so, because like the game is very, like, quite Sea of Stars is not a game where you grind. No. It's so linear. You have a limited number of enemies. It's not like you're going and doing that. I think it's just overtuned.
I have a feeling Sea of Stars also... the enemies mirror your level. I could be wrong on that. I remember I think someone said that at the time, but yeah.
Right. But in any case, I was like, I'm going into these fights and I'm doing a good job, by which I mean I'm blocking, and I'm still taking so much damage and dying, and I'm like, this isn't really that fun. So I was like, how do I turn this down? And Sea of Stars is interesting because it doesn't have difficulty, but it has those relic items in your inventory.
Oh, right,
and so one of the items is reduce damage taken by 30%. So I just turned that on, and I was like, great, never have to think about it again. And the game was a lot more enjoyable doing that. Like, I like the combat in Sea of Stars. I think it's cool. But I do think that Expedition 33 has now spoiled me on that style of turn-based combat, because it just is so good, and feels so fantastic, and also is also just really well balanced. Like, I think that game is super well balanced, and so I think what they did was they turned up the knobs a bit too high, and I had to just like kind of turn them back down to make it just a little bit more easy. And like, it meant the boss fights weren't that challenging, but to be honest, I wasn't really there for that. Like, I think one of the nice things about this DLC is it really doubles down on puzzle solving. So there is combat, and there's definitely some challenging combat in there, and there's lots of encounters you go through, but every area has like a lot of different environmental puzzles of like getting up to a place, okay, dropping down this block, pushing, using the wind power to push it, like using your character's abilities and doing the kind of classic, not Zelda dungeon style stuff necessarily, but like lots of puzzles that were super engaging and very fun and just rewarded your sense of exploration and going around the environment and getting the extra chests and stuff like that. So I think if that was an aspect you enjoyed in Sea of Stars, they really turn it up in this DLC, and they give you a lot more of that, and it's really, really fun. And I think that's probably the highlight of this for me, is doing all those puzzles and running around those themed areas and you know, just enjoying the vibes of it, and the music and the pixel art. It's just it's spectacular looking game. So yeah, I think that's kind of the reason to play it, and less so the combat side. You know, as fun as it is, I did feel like the moves that you had in your arsenal were a little less interesting generally, and sometimes were just hard to nail down the timing for. So yeah, they were not quite as streamlined as the main game, but yeah, I definitely think that it's a good, quick little RPG to play. I mean, you have to have played 30 hours of another RPG to play it, but if you've already done that, then yeah, you can enjoy like a 7-hour romp through you know, these fun places. And
is the story
I feel
intriguing?
like a lot of people. Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like a lot of people have talked about the story and saying it's a lot better than the base game. And like, I think a lot better is a bit of an overstatement, but I do think it is a slightly stronger. I think, you know, we talked about in the past how Zale and Valir, like, you know, it's that classic, not YouTube video, but like it's on YouTube these days, of like, maybe it's a documentary of people being like, oh, describe Qui-Gon Jinn, and people are like, I don't know, because I don't know his personality, right? Versus like Han Solo and, you know, that sort of stuff. People basically making fun of the prequels because you can't describe the character.
Right.
I would describe that to Zale and Valir. It's like, who are they? I don't know. They're kind of blank slates. They're not really characters in any way. They don't.
You just wanted to give Garl all the limelight.
Yeah, exactly. Garl is actually the only legitimate character in that game, it seems. But one of the things they do with this narrative is that they create like evil versions of Valir and Zale, and so it does the whole thing of like, oh, they are seeing themselves reflected through this evil version of themselves that maybe reflects a truth about themselves deep inside that they never thought about. So it's one of those types of things of like, ooh, maybe Valir is a little angry sometimes, maybe Zale thinks that he should protect everybody and he shouldn't, you know, that type of thing, which is, you know, it's a little tropey, it's a little, you know, out there, but I think it's fine. I think it's totally okay, and I was never really that bothered about the story of Sea of Stars anyway. I liked it for other aspects, but yes, if you wanted a bit more depth to that stuff, it's certainly here, which is nice. And yeah, I think people have a good time with this. I definitely think it's worth checking out as one of the last things that you maybe play on your Nintendo Switch, because I'm sure a lot of people did play Sea of Stars on Switch, a perfect kind of console for it. So
I'll try and get to this year, but I'm not that hopeful, but we'll give it a go.
Yeah. I think if I'd come in here raving about it, then, you know, you'd probably be a bit more incentivized. But I think it's good. I think it's solid. It's like, if you like Sea of Stars, you're gonna like this more. You do like Sea of Stars more than me, I think, overall. So you probably get a little bit more out of it than I would. But anyway, it's good. If you want to return to that world, I'd recommend it. So, Throes of the Watchmaker, which is free, which is kind of crazy, to be honest. Like, usually free DLC is like, oh, it's like a small kind of like set of challenge missions or stuff like that. It's like, no, this entire story that they crafted, huge brand new campaign, is totally free. So yeah, very, very cool. Bali, what have you been digging into?
I have been on holiday as well. Well, you weren't on holiday, you were working, but I was on holiday. So yeah, I was down south going to a wedding, and then down south for a week, and then a stag do, and I was like, I brought my Switch to Turkey, did not play anything. I'm going to bring my Switch down south. It's going to be exhausting with 2 kids and seeing people and all this stuff, but we'll give it a go. Who knows? I might be able to play something. And then once the boys were down and we were just chilling at Caroline's mum's house, and Caroline and her mum were just watching something, and I was like, I'm just going to play some Switch. And I did this for a few nights, and I managed to beat Lil Gator Game, which you played last year, I want to say, or year before?
Yes, I think it was one of the first things I played last year.
Yeah, and it came out in 2022, so yeah, very chill, little, short, open world game, very much like a Short Hike comparisons you were making. I remember when you talked about this game, and others have made that comparison.
Yeah, I called it a hike-like,
Hike-like,
it's a phrase that we've coined on this podcast, yeah.
And it totally is, but I think it's a more chill game. I think it focuses a lot more on the writing and the characters and the story, I guess, because it's all about you're a little gator and you want your older sister to like play with you, just like the good old days where she would set up all these worlds and you'd imaginary fantasy worlds and you'd fight these monsters and do all these things. But now your older sister, she's like at uni or college or whatever, and she's busy writing up essays but still hanging out with you. She's not like in her room or at college writing these essays. She's still out in the open, because you start on like this little island and you go to this larger island, and she's always kind of centered on her laptop just working away at her things. So your whole aim is to set up fun stuff to kind of impress her and get her to play the fun stuff with you. It's kind of the plot. And it's chill. It's nice. Like, the world is very foggy, and I think it's a nice effect because it makes the world feel much bigger than it actually is. I think mechanically it's not as in-depth or as strong as a game like Short Hike, but it's still good fun, and it kind of works for what this world is going for. And yeah, it's kind of just, there are 3 main areas, and you go to one area, and one of them's like, oh, we need to like fix, we've all disagreed on what fiction we want to play for this play, and it's like an amphitheater, and like one person wants to do like horror, another one wants to do like exploring, and someone else wants to do like a western or something. Can't remember, but you go around and have to find those people, and they explain why they want to do that thing, and you're convincing everyone to come back to your central hub town to kind of fill out the town and then impress your sister. So it's all quirky little chit chats you're having back and forth. I thought the writing is good, but I think some of the cutscenes on those main quest storylines I felt were just a little bit long, because I think I was enjoying just exploring the world a bit more than talking to people always, and I think the cadence of exploring to talking maybe could have been weighted slightly more with the exploring, but it's still cool. I think I like the focus on verticality. You have like a glider that's very Breath of the Wild inspired, and I really like the challenge of like getting to these peaks, and there's no map whatsoever. I think that's quite a good idea for this game. You do get discombobulated a little bit, but then in true open world style, I think that it's incentivizing you to gain altitude and look around and try and work out reference points. There's also some like actual signage you can walk up to, and it'll say, go this way for the amphitheater, go this way for the Great Wood or whatever. So it's well structured. I am impressed.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I remember finding a little tricky was, okay, I started this quest with this group. I can't remember where exactly they are, and so sometimes like getting back to where you wanted to be can be a little bit tricky. But like you said, I think it does a good enough job of signing things and where they should be. Yeah, I mean, how do you feel about the climbing generally? Because to me, it felt like you run out of stamina relatively quickly, and it feels like there's a lot more Skyrimming your way up stuff in this game, kind of fudging the systems, as opposed to the more kind of like, I don't know, measured approach that Short Hike takes.
Yeah, like it's very important, for example, that you jump before attaching yourself to a cliff, for example, to gain altitude, so you're not just using up the wheel immediately. So there's like technique to it that's, I would agree, is a little bit jank. It's not that smooth, and then as you say, it runs out very quickly, and you can upgrade it, I think 3 or 4 times by getting to the other summits around the world to meet this guy, and it gives you more rings, and that's cool. Like I think that's a good mechanic generally, but yeah, it's not, it's everything is I think the best way to describe this game is nice. Like, I don't think there's nothing that special. I think it's very Breath of the Wild inspired, which is nice. But I feel like it's there's nothing that made me go, oh wow, like that's incredible. Or, oh my, like look at this cool mechanic. And what you were saying about before, like you do a main quest and then you kind of get sidetracked and you go off and then you can't reorientate and get back to the main quest you're on. I totally agree. Because it's not just the main quest you need. There are actually like lots of other characters in the game that just have really short, small mini quests that you just do sort of in front of them. They might be like, oh, there's 3 baddies over there, go and defeat them. When I say baddies, every baddie in this world is imaginary and is a cardboard cutout. So it's quite a static game.
Yeah, how do you feel about that stuff? Because it's like, you know, I think it's kind of giving you something to do as you run around. Like, just you have a sword and it feels good to use it, but it's kind of functionless, I guess, is the thing, because there's never any threat or danger. But I still like it because I like that type of thing. Like, I twiddle my thumbs a lot, and so it's like when a game lets me metaphorically twiddle my thumbs, by which I mean when you're in Hollow Knight and you're just like smacking grass as you go by, right? Shit like that.
Yes.
Or, you know, any game like Xenoblade where you're running around, there's little shiny bits on the ground just to collect as you go. Like there's like an incentive structure for you to run around and like kind of engage your brain as you're walking about a space, and that like smacking the enemies and getting the little confetti for me worked very well because that's just how my brain works and I like doing that stuff. But interested to see how it landed with you.
I think if I was making this game, I don't know, I feel like I would prefer. So if you took away that sense of combat, I think it would show off how simplistic the platforming and climbing is. Like, I think the game needs that ability to swing, because without that ability to swing, there's not actually a run button in this game. Like, I think it would feel much slower paced.
Right.
And when you can't attack and the game feels slower paced, you almost need to speed it up and make it more platforming focused in an open world, and you're kind of moving into games like, I don't know, the Pathless or something.
Your brain is almost distracted from the pace of it by the fact that you always have a little shiny thing in front of you to engage with, right?
Totally. And I think it's actually interesting, and that's a good example of an area where a short hike is a more elegant game structure, is that game doesn't have combat, but you never walk around the game getting bored. But you still don't have that ability to poke long grass and cut it like you wish in games. So like it's still, I think that speaks to like the quality of the world and game design personally. I think Lil Gator Game, and also because it's like so kind of Zelda inspired, like you kind of need the sword in Lil Gator Game, and that's the fantasy that they're portraying. So
very true.
It's very cute in that way. I think you need the sword and the hat and the shield. Like that's a big part of this game. So it works for this game.
But also, like, you know, I am someone who does like changing my cosmetics out, you know. I'm in cutscenes in Expedition 33 with the fucking baguette helmet on or whatever, the sunglasses, you know. I like goofy shit like that. And you are a lot more vanilla and serious, and you're like, I don't want to do any of that. I'm going to be normal. So I guess, like, the incentive structure of getting confetti and the confetti leading to new outfits or hats or whatever, or, like, new ways that your stick can look like a thing, probably not much of an incentive.
Yeah, totally. And as much as gaining verticality is a moderate incentive in this game, you can still beat the game, I think, without getting to any peak, I think, and you just kind of need to do the main quests, whereas a short hike, as the name suggests, is all about the peak, and just resonated a lot stronger with me. But I would still recommend this game. I think it's fun. It's chill. I'm always looking for short games to fit in there and talk about when my life is very busy at the moment, and it is a very good one of those. So I still recommend it. Lil Gator Game. I want more short hike likes. Is that what you call them?
Right. Yeah.
Hike likes.
Hike likes. Yeah. Hike like. How did it run on Switch? Is it running all right?
Yeah. Fine. Frame rate. Cool. Was it 60 or 30? I would guess 30, but I honestly can't remember. It ran fine.
Especially when you're playing handheld, it's a lot less impactful, I think, you know.
Also, big shout out. Everyone knows I'm a big tree fan. That's a thing I'm perpetuating quite a bit, and this has some very nice artistic trees. It's a very chill autumnal game, and I love autumnal in games. I think they are the strongest form of trees. So yeah,
I think we should we should change episode 300 instead of doing our
tree ranking.
favorite
Let's
games.
go.
We do our favorite trees. Yeah, favorite trees. It's gonna happen one day. We'll have nothing else left to talk about. We'll be like, I guess now we rank all the trees in video games. So
yes,
we'll get there. Yeah. Wispy Woods. He's not making the list, unfortunately.
It used to be water. Now it's all about the trees.
We should do 2 lists. We should do best water and best trees.
Yes.
Then we need a third one to
Episode 300 and episode 400. Sorted.
Best sky. There you go. Round out the trio, the trilogy.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I got one more thing to talk about. I think maybe a while back on the show I talked briefly, or maybe I just mentioned it to you, Bally, about the demo for Tales of Kenzera ZAU. So this game came out, was it 2 years ago at this point?
Jesus, really?
It's a
wow.
maybe, yeah. It came out last year, because Prince of Persia was last year, right? Yes.
Yeah,
so it did come out. It came out early last year, because it came out around the same time as Prince of Persia, which certainly did not do it.
February the 1st, 2024. Yeah.
Yes, didn't do it any favors because it was unfavorably compared to that game, I would say. But I played a demo for it as part of a Next Fest a while ago, and I played it on my Steam Deck, and the Steam Deck just wasn't a good fit for it in terms of performance. It was really, really laggy and slow, and didn't perform well at all. That demo was just very bad on the Steam Deck, and so I was like, I don't think this is very good, and I kind of lumped in a bit of its quality with the Steam Deck performance, which is unfair to some degree. But I was still interested in checking it out at some point. Because, as you know, I'm the king of Metroidvanias, and any Metroidvania, no matter what its quality, I will play it and still probably have a good time. I'm happy to report that Tales of Kenzera ZAU is exactly that. It's a 7 out of 10 Metroidvania,
good.
but it starts you with a double jump and an air dash.
What?
So already you're an 8 out of 10 just before even beginning. So
like a fast, snappy one, not like a
very snappy,
right.
like a snappy dash, like an instant you zip across the screen dash, and also the cooldown on it is really short, so it's like you can fucking spam that shit. You can double jump, dash, and you can get through these areas. You can move, which is exactly what I want. So obviously this one is from Surgeon Studios, founded by Abubakar Salim, who obviously was a voice actor and has been in very big things like Game of Thrones. He's in House of the Dragon, but he was kind of made his name in Assassin's Creed, where he played what's the name of the character? It begins with a B. It was in Assassin's Creed Origins, the Egyptian one. So he was the main character in that game, and he decided he wanted to start a game studio, and he got this deal with EA to release Tales of Kenzera ZAU, which is a African-inspired Metroidvania. It's interesting because it frames it in you start the game and it's like this super futuristic modern city, right? Almost reminds you of whatever the city is in Black Panther. Has a bit of that vibe to it. Wakanda, yes. And you're playing this boy, and he's clearly his dad has passed away, and so he's trying to deal with it, right? And so he finds this story that his dad had started to write, and he starts reading the story, and this story is a kind of mythological tale using kind of like African myth, and so you play as ZAU, who is the character of this book that this other character is reading. So it's like a bit of a story within a story thing, but the entirety of the Metroidvania portion is within that kind of book, essentially. So you are kind of running around doing stuff, and I guess the main narrative of the book is that you are trying to, it's similarly to the main character, you are trying to bring your father back because he has passed away, and you're like, oh, I'm going to talk to the spirit is going to help me, but I need to go on this adventure and get the doodads, and then we'll be able to bring him back, and that's kind of the idea here. So as you go, you are obviously unlocking abilities and doing various Metroidvania things. The core of the combat is this system of masks. So you have these 2 masks. One of them is a kind of fire-based mask that does melee damage, and so you're slicing with some weapons, close range with enemies, and the other one does range damage, but it's more limited in terms of you will run out of bullets, quote unquote, and you'll have to kind of wait a little bit before they restock. So you are very easily able to switch between these two modes, between the kind of melee and the ranged, and there's different enemies that will have different kind of resistances to them. So like if an enemy has a blue shield, the only way to defeat it is to use the blue kind of ranged attack on it. Likewise, same goes for the red and with the melee stuff. So it's doing a little bit of kind of Outbound-esque stuff. Outbound, is that the name of the game? Fuck, what's it called? It's the Ubisoft Metroidvania that came out on 360 that I played years and years ago. But it basically has the Ikaruga style bullet switching, like you switch between red and blue. So it has a bit of that vibe to it as well, of like certain enemies can only be hurt by certain things. And I think combat is definitely the weakest part of this game. It's a little spammy and feels like you can sometimes get knocked into situations where it's like, well, I'm just stuck in a corner here being attacked to death, and it's quite annoying. And I also found that the sponginess of the enemies was not well calibrated for a Metroidvania. What do I mean by this? I mean, for me, the perfect Metroidvania is a game where you get into a flow state, right? You are moving through the world and you are not too obstructed by it, right? If you ever get too obstructed by it, it removes the joy of exploration, it removes the flow, it removes the kind of dynamism of finding your way through a space. And this is why I was always very critical of the beginning of Metroid Samus Returns, the remake of Metroid 2, because that game breaks your flow constantly in that you have to stop and stand in place to counter enemies. And so the start of that game, I think, is quite flawed in the sense that it ruins the flow of the Metroidvania genre. And I think in this case, what happens is the enemies are so spongy and they take so many hits to die that you are never able to be like, whack, 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 next enemy, you know? Like, you have to hit enemies with like 3 or 4 combo strings before they die, and so you feel like you're constantly stopping in place to do that, and it basically kind of kills the flow. And I think, you know, interesting that Sea of Stars and Tales of Kenzera both come up in this episode, because they are both situations where I looked at it and I was like, I think this game design is not well tuned, and I'm going to change the difficulty to account for it. So what really happened was I was playing it normally, you know, for a while, played the first boss. The first boss is spongy as fuck, like insanely spongy, takes so many hits, and I was like, this is taking fucking forever. And I get literally down to like the last hit, and I die, and I was so mad, I was so annoyed, so I turned the difficulty down to the lowest just to kill the boss quickly and get it done with. And then after that I was like, okay, I'll put it back, but I'll probably put it down like 1 notch below normal, just because, like I said, the combat's not that engaging and it's not that fun, and it is just, enemies just have too much health. So by turning it down, you reduce the health, and therefore you immediately make the flow of the game better. It just instantly felt like a better game to play, a smoother experience, a more well-tuned one. And, you know, obviously it meant that I was taking far less damage, and so I just wasn't dying anymore. But again, that wasn't really why I was here, right? I'm here for the movement.
But the game wasn't designed with that tension of, you know, like a 9 Souls or something, where it kind of
exactly
earns the ability to kill you lots. It's just kind of was a bit spongy.
Totally. Yeah, 9 Souls is a great example. I thought about it while I was playing this. I was like, it's not that I don't like difficulty in Metroidvanias, but I think it was just poorly calibrated is the thing, right? Like, they wanted to make it challenging, but their answer was, let's give them more HP, not let's make the attacks more interesting, or let's make you think about it, right? So yeah, 9 Souls is
like a really difficult platforming challenge with a really dodgy feeling jump, you know? It doesn't, it doesn't earn the difficulty if it feels bad.
Exactly. And so you know, Sea of Stars was a case of like, well, I like the puzzles and I want to do more of those, and I don't care about the combat. And Tales of Kenzera is, well, I like the platforming and I don't really care about the combat, and so I want to do so the
platforming is strong in Tales of Kenzera.
I would say so, yeah. And I think it's just like they give you really a lot of movement abilities. You can tell this has a lot of Ori inspiration in the sense that there's a couple of sequences of like escape stuff, of like, I'm running away from a boss instead of fighting it, which is good. So, and
I feel like the color palette feels a little bit Ori. Do you agree?
A bit as well. Definitely, it's definitely quite a bright game. It has a lot of different colors going on. And sometimes it feels a little clashy and a little, hard to read, but generally speaking, I think it's, it works quite well. And you have some interesting abilities, like your ranged attack eventually gets the ability to freeze stuff, so you're freezing water, so you're doing a bit of like jumping puzzles, wall jumping using that, and then you get a kind of spear that you throw from the fire stuff, and you use that to like hit switches and open doors, and yeah, there's a good amount of platforming and challenge throughout that, which I really enjoyed. And there's also similar to Prince of Persia, there's like optional hard areas where it will indicate like, oh, this is an off the path thing. It'll have like a symbol and it'll be like, oh, this is deliberately a challenge platforming area, and those were great. Like every time I saw one of those, I was like, oh yes, rub my hands together. I'm like, yes, make me use your platforming tools flexibly, worked very, very well. So you get like a glide eventually, you get like an air kind of like, you already have the air dash, which is just your dash, but then you get like an air, I'm gonna call it an air zoom, where you kind of like spear your way upwards, like it gives you upward momentum, and you can also attack with it, you can also break certain blocks with it. So yeah, I think generally speaking, it's well thought out when it comes to the platforming stuff, which I very much enjoyed and thought was really, really solid. And it was a perfect game to just like pop on a podcast and just run through an area and just navigate, have a good time, find some secrets, all that good Metroidvania stuff. And once I turned that difficulty down, then it made it much more fluid as well.
One thing I remember distinctly from reviewers at the start of last year was they just give you the map. Like it's already a fairly filled in map. Did the like exploration Metroidvania of this game come across well, or was it that aspect just a bit flat?
Yeah, I'd say it's quite a linear Metroidvania, and I'm someone who doesn't really...
So therefore it doesn't really matter if it gives you the map, right?
It doesn't really matter, okay. No. Like, I think had it been more in the vein of a Hollow Knight or, I don't know, like a tradition, like a Super Metroid, I think that would have probably impacted things a bit, because then you don't really have anything to deduce or solve. But it is more in the vein of like Metroid Fusion or Ori and the Blind Forest, which is to say very linear, like where you're going at all times. And yeah, you can go back when you have your abilities, and there's a fast travel system, which is very convenient, so you can fast travel back to any area. And I did a couple of times to be like, oh, I now have an ability, I can go there and I can get the thing. But yeah, it's a game that is more styled after linear Metroidvanias. And again, I've said in the past, I like those as long as they feel good to run around and move in, and that's generally what this is, right? Like, I do think it has an adjacency to the Ori games. Obviously, Will of the Wisp is slightly different in that you can choose what order you do stuff in, but I'd say within those areas, it's still pretty linear as far as Metroidvanias go. There's not a huge amount of, like, deep exploration going on in those games compared to some of the others in the genre space. Yeah, so I'd put Axiom Verge in the exploration space as well. Especially Axiom Verge 2, a very exploration. Like, exploration is like the core of Axiom Verge 2, and I think it's one of the best at it, honestly. But yeah, this doesn't really worry about that because it's not a chief concern of it. So yeah.
Did the plot hit?
So this is the thing, right? And I think this is unfair on video games because it's my problem. But if you're a Metroidvania, I can't. I find it so hard. Like, Nine Souls has a really good story.
It's a good story.
I know it does. It's really good. I don't give a shit. I'm sorry. I can't. I just want to run around and hit the guy, And, like, the voice acting is really good. Like, really, really strong voice acting. I think the writing is good. It's not, like, amazing. But clearly there's, like, a lot of interesting stuff happening here and some good storytelling and some emotional performances. I just want to double jump and dash. I'm sorry. I'm just like
I'm convinced this is something. I predict in the next 10 years there will be a Metroidvania story that hits with you. That's my prediction.
Okay. All right.
Now maybe Nine Souls should have and could have been that game, but we'll see. I don't know. I think it's going to happen.
The thing, like, if Nine Souls didn't, then I don't know if anything else can. Yeah, that's a really I acknowledge point. It's very good. I can't. In the moment, I can't care about it. My brain doesn't let me. My brain is like, A button through this shit so I can do the double jump again, Like, I just get in such... And that's what I'm talking about with flow state. Flow state is the utmost important thing in a Metroidvania for me. And so that's why I had to turn the difficulty down.
Or you could have, like, a really... you could have like a really light, vibey story, like an Ori, that is so much based on spectacle and orchestral soundtracks.
Honestly, the Ori games have my favorite stories in Metroidvanias because they are so light. Same with Metroid Dread. Metroid Dread, I love the story of Metroid Dread because it is so simple, but there's like very minimal cutscenes, and every time they happen, there's either no dialogue or like barely any dialogue. So it's not like you're paying attention to stuff.
Do you prefer Dread to like the kind of artsy, vibey story of an Ori?
I think they're kind of similar, if I'm honest. Like, yeah, like how many lines of dialogue are spoken in Metroid Dread? Maybe like a page total. There's like Ravenbeak dialogue.
There's that. Is it Adam?
There's the Samus scene.
There's someone. Isn't there a computer who speaks to you?
That's right. There is the computer stuff that is talking to you, which you think is Adam. Yeah, but I think that's also kind of light as well. There's not a huge amount of it, right?
I think when I say light in Ori, it's like silence and music, and it's kind of like that's why I meant like it different. I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's not. There's no dialogue in the Ori games. They just do it through animation, right? And like, sad music, and you're walking through the fire as everything's going bad, and like you see the big one saving the egg from the thing. You know, like it is. It's like silent storytelling, but is still very understandable and all that sort of stuff. So I think they are similar-ish. Metroid obviously is a bit more explicit in that there is dialogue, but I think about the scene of like she exits the area and she like all the X parasites fly out and then go across the world, and I'm like, that's really effective, as a cutscene for me. It does a lot of narrative lifting without really having to say stuff. Like I think that's my ultimate problem, is if you stop me in a game and tell me to read a thing. Like Nine Souls has all those lore pieces. Like I'm just not going to sit there for 3 minutes reading a lore bit in the middle of me running around. That's the type of storytelling that really is ineffective for me in those games. And there's definitely parts of Nine Souls that I did pay attention to and I did watch, but it also has quite a complicated story to follow, and I had to watch like a story breakdown afterwards. So anyway, Tales of Kenzera ZAU is definitely a much more straightforward story to follow, but it's dialogue, so I'm just like, I just kind of want to move on. So I'm sorry, it's me, it's not you. This is 100% a me problem.
I'm a little surprised because a lot of people were like, Tales of Kenzera ZAU, story very good, mechanically less good. But you're here saying,
and I'm the kind of the opposite. I'm like, story is okay, I guess, but I really like jumping and dashing, you know. So but predictable for me, I guess. I am nothing if not.
I would like to try this at some point. It's on my
I'd recommend it. Again, it's quite short. Like both of these games, like I started them both over a weekend. I finished Tales of Kenzera in the weekend, and then finished Sea of Stars like the week after. But both about 7 hours long. So really nice. Finish them in a few evenings type of video games, which I like quite a bit. So there you go. So that is going to do us for the first part of today's show. Don't go anywhere, however. We'll be back after the break to rank the launch lineups of every Nintendo console up until this point in time. See you in a bit. All right, everybody, welcome back to the second part of today's show. It's time for a brand new system, which means brand new video games, which means launch. It's happening. I feel like launch of a console these days is a weird place because with backwards compatibility, with access to vast libraries of content, what is a launch game anymore? Could we consider a Switch game that came out in 2018 a launch game for the Switch 2? Because you can play it there day one, who could say? But in the spirit of the situation, the idea of a launch lineup, we're going to do a ranking, Bally, of Nintendo Switch systems.
Before we start, what is your most memorable Nintendo launch? Go.
This is a great question. So, I think there's a couple. I feel like probably memorable is Wii. I think Wii is probably the most memorable.
Definitely Wii for me.
Mainly because of me not getting one, and then me getting one, which we've talked about before, where like I didn't get one on the day, and I went to Ali T's house, and all of us were there, and we played it there, and then I was mad, and then I got home on the weekend and my mom had found one, so that went well, but I think Wii is maybe the most excited I've ever been for a console to come out.
I think excited you've ever been sentence ends there, right? Not
like, no, in my life, yeah,
like,
just the peak of my existence as a human is the Wii launch. Yeah, pretty. It's definitely up there in terms of memorable things. But yeah, that one's definitely memorable. So we're not including handhelds on this list, but I do think that 3DS was another great one as well that I was very excited for.
That one was. So that's my second most memorable. I'll go Wii very quickly. So the thing that's most memorable for me about the Wii is that I had a 12-hour long art exam. Now you're thinking, what the fuck, a 12-hour long? So it was split over 3 sessions on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And Friday was the day that Wii came out. And I worked this out like months in advance of the Wii coming out. And I thought, for God's sake, I've got like this huge mental like thing to get my head over. And I think it was a GCSE mock art exam, I want to say. Like, I think it was like
so it wasn't your real GCSE.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't the real one. I could be wrong on that.
No, it can't have been because consoles launch in November, right?
Exactly. So... either way, it was just a real ball ache of like a thing to mentally get over. And I remember after the first session, 4 hours in, I was like, okay, we've got 8 hours left. Gotta keep going. Second session. Then by the start of the third session, I was like so excited knowing that we were like going to Ali T's house after school and like this was going to be amazing. And as I was like finishing this art project, I remember doing the last thing and then I had like 10 minutes to go, so I just sat there in silence waiting for the thing to end, and I was just like visualizing, we're going to be unboxing a Wii, this is going to be amazing. I'm like, it was just so much hype. And then the second most memorable, I would agree, would be something like 3DS, because it's the first one where I felt like an adult and I was at university and like there's no mums involved, there's no like this. I was like, I just went to game, I pre-ordered it, I went on the day, picked it up, went back to my student halls and played 3DS and played Pilot Wings and was very impressed. Like it was just like, wow, this is like a proper adult thing I'm doing here for the first time, which felt quite nice.
Right. I think also 3DS, like I went and played a preview of it in Edinburgh. There was like a whole Nintendo event. They had 3DSs there, and went and did a whole vlog around it as well, and played it early, and was trying to describe the 3D to you at the time because you hadn't seen it, and so it's like we couldn't figure out like, oh, what is this 3D gonna look like?
It's very hard to describe, actually. Yeah,
very hard to describe. But yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, that was very exciting for sure. So yeah, that one is super memorable. I'd say, going back to the Wii real quick, I think the most memorable part of the thing that just sticks in my mind is the first time that Ali T handed me a Wii remote, and I was like, it's so small. Like I was just shocked by how small it was, because the whole idea behind the Wii remote, right, was like, oh, it's like a TV controller. And so in my head, I'd always imagined it as like a TV controller size, like a bit of a larger device.
Yeah.
And so as soon as he put it in my hand, I was like, oh, this is tiny. This is not what I expected at all. And so it was a little bit jarring. I was like, wow, I didn't expect it to be that small. But yeah, that was definitely surprising. Yeah, I mean, Switch is definitely an interesting one in the sense that like it was probably not as exciting. It was one of those consoles that gets delivered to your house, you know, and just like sitting there waiting for it. But I do think it's one of those exciting ones of like, oh, Nintendo have slightly changed here. Like they're doing something different. Like this console is like premium and
yes,
you know,
yeah,
very, very kind of like cool. Like I remember strongly going to bed the day of the Switch launch and playing Breath of the Wild in bed and seeing my first shooting star like as I was going to bed, and I was about to sleep, and I was like, oh, nope, I've got to run 10 miles to go find out what the fuck that is, and then not going to sleep until super late because I wanted to find it. And I remember turning it into sleep mode, putting it in my drawer, and being like, basically, I didn't want to put it in the dock because I was like, oh, I don't want it to like overcharge or whatever, right? And so I put it in my drawer to be like safe with it. I woke up the next morning, and the battery had gone down by 2%, and I was like, oh my god, like I lost my mind. I was like, wow, the battery saving on this is crazy. And honestly, to this day, it's still impressive because we have Steam Decks, and my Steam Deck battery just fucking disappears when you put it into sleep mode. Like it doesn't retain power at all. So I still think that's one of the most impressive things about the Switch as a device is like its ability to suspend. We use an interesting one, I think, because it's one that not many people are excited for, but I really enjoyed it.
I think that's the only one I wasn't on launch, other than like N64, which I came in late, but yeah,
totally. But yeah, Wii U was an interesting one, and I really did enjoy that from like it felt like it was a console made for me. Of like, I didn't have a PC at the time, and so I was watching YouTube videos on my Wii U while browsing the internet, and then I was listening to podcasts or like listening to RFN, and they had like their telethon stuff going on as well. I think around the time the Wii U came out, and I was like playing Nintendo Land while listening to that, and it was a good time. You know, it was very, very fun. So yeah, lots of memories from all these Nintendo launches. But Bally, that's the question that we are not answering. The one that we are is which is best launch lineup of the systems.
The ranking.
Doing a ranking. Did this idea just come into your head, or was this from an email? I'm actually not sure.
I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe I heard it somewhere. Maybe I came up with it. Or maybe it's a bit of both. I really can't remember, but it was in my head.
I'm pretty sure we didn't have a plan for this episode, and you messaged me being like, "You want to do that thing?" And I was like, "Did we mention that before?"
Oh, I suggested this last week, and you said,
"Oh, did you?
Actually,
okay.
Maybe we should do it next time," and it makes sense this time because this is the last ever episode of TNL before Switch 2, so we can talk about.
I have zero memory of this, so to my knowledge, you just said a thing, and I was like, sure, did we get an email about that? Okay. But anyway, here we are, we're doing it now, so there's no turning back. So, how do you want to do this, Bally? Do you want to run through each system and kind of talk about it and its merits and its faults, and then we can put it onto the list?
And I think we should, like, this is our personal list. This is what we think of these games. I don't think this is like, how well did they sell or how critically acclaimed are they? It's just kind of like our personal thoughts.
Do we want to take any like context of the time into account at all?
I think we probably should take some.
Yeah, probably.
Or like, there's some of these games that I didn't play at launch, but I've played since and respect them a lot more. So maybe we could talk about that. But yeah,
keep that into account. I think have that into account. Have like impact of the time in which they were, because we could be mean about it and be like all NES games are shit, and then it goes in the end. And I don't think that's an effective way to do this. Is ranking launch lineups. You kind of have to do it in the context of the time a little bit. So yeah.
Right. We'll start with NES then.
Yeah.
This is a long launch lineup.
So something I should say for the NES, actually, to put it into context. We don't really actually know what the launch lineup was for the NES, because the NES is a system that predates like game generations in a way, right? Like, it was a thing put in toy stores, and no one knows the actual release date of the NES when it actually came out in America. And there were a bunch of games, but like, were they all the same day that it officially came out? So this is, I think there's a caveat to this of like, yes, these were all within the first kind of period of the NES, but I don't think necessarily they were all like launch day, quote unquote. But anyway, just to give that context for people.
Shall I run through them?
Yes.
So 10-Yard Fight, Baseball, Clue Land, Duck Hunt, Excite Bike, Golf, Gyromite, together with the robotic operating buddy, Hogan's Alley, Ice Climber, Kung Fu, Pinball, Stack Up, Super Mario Brothers, Tennis, Wild Gunman, Wrecking Crew.
So I think the NES actually has a pretty damn robust launch lineup when it comes to type of games, and when it comes to like variety as well. Like, you've got multiplayer stuff in there with like tennis and golf. You have, I think, like interesting like approaches, like Excite Bike and its whole like changing the track and stuff like that, right? Like
It does actually hold up pretty well, Excitebike, the bits I've played of it. It's
the 3D version on 3DS is really good, actually. I like that quite a bit. Like the whole
as does Super Mario Brothers. Like I think it still feels good.
The original, yeah, I mean the original Mario Brothers does really well. Ice Climber, I don't think is a great video game, but at least it's got something different going on with it, right? Like it's at least unique. There's something that I've not heard of. Like 10-Yard Fight I've never heard of before. I actually don't know what it is or what's going on with that. But Wild Gunman is obviously a game that's partly based on, or the Duck Hunt dog in Smash Brothers has a move drawn from that as well, I think.
And then Duck Hunt, obviously.
Duck Hunt itself, obviously, there's the classic bundle of Duck Hunt plus Super Mario Brothers, which I think it's a pretty great combo. So like, you also have peripherals here, right, with Duck Hunt and the Zapper, as well as Rob being a thing that you could have as well.
I hadn't realized Rob stands for Robotic Operating Buddy. That is very good.
Yes, that's his acronym. So like, there's you can see the toy-like angle Nintendo were taking with this launch, in the sense that you have two peripherals here, you know, with both of those things going on. So
I feel like I've played a bit of tennis through. While I can obviously play this on Switch Online and stuff, I think there were some NES games on the e-card reader on Game Boy Advance where you could scan through a handful of cards and all right, now you can play tennis. Now you can play. I think I just owned tennis, maybe a couple of others. I can't remember the other ones. But it's finicky and quite challenging, but cool for the time.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like NES games that hold up go, I think like Mario Brothers, Excitebike, and Duck Hunt are all like pretty solid, you know. If I was to rank NES games, like those would probably be in like maybe in the top 10 even of the ones that I've played and I like. So for all three of them to be around the launch of the system, I think speaks quite highly of what they had here. Definitely a good start for Nintendo. And a different kind of approach, right? Because they were brand new. It's a new thing on the market. So it's not like they can just drop one video game and be like, it's Mario, you'll buy it. Like, Mario wasn't the icon that he is today. He's just one of a set of games as part of a launch lineup. Right. So, yeah, very, very interesting. So I guess it's number one for now.
Top and bottom. It's top, yeah. Super Nintendo, F-Zero, Pilot Wings, Gradius 3, SimCity, and Super Mario World, which was a packing game, at least in North America, I believe.
Yes, yeah. So significant drop in terms of number here, but quite a jump of quality in some senses. I mean, F-Zero, Pilot Wings, and Mario World on their own are all like very strong contenders.
I think the visual effects of is it called Mode 7? Of
Mode
F-Zero
7
and Pilot Wings, I think blew people away at the time. And then obviously
huge impact.
Super Mario World was just like this incredible. It's almost like making it Super Mario open world, but obviously not really. But like with the overworld, it made Super Mario a lot more interesting, and the level design and all these things. And it still feels good for the time. I know I've said like I don't think Super Mario World feels as good as all these modern reviewers claim it does. I still think there's so many platforms that feel so much stronger, but obviously in the context of this list, I think it's still a strong game.
Mario World to me like still holds up tremendously. I really enjoyed it when I played it. It's definitely my favorite of the classic Mario games. When we talk about like the original and 3 and all that sort of stuff, World is by far like I really don't understand people. Again, which is my thing I always go back to, but I don't understand the love for 3. 3 is like a frustrating, annoying video game. Mario World is excellent, like really, really good, and just has so much variety in it. Just feels like super bite-sized with its levels as well. Just well-paced, just super well-made game, and obviously, you know, many people's favorite game of all time. So I think it's super strong. That with F-Zero those are probably the top ones here. I don't have much experience with any Sim City game at all. I'm just not that kind of person. So I have no idea if this is a good version or not, or if many people played it on Super Nintendo.
I'd love to try it sometime, actually. I've not played it, but I'm intrigued.
Yeah, totally. And I always like a shmup, so Gradius 3 is a nice thing to have there. So that's good. Gives you a little bit of a good diet of different games. Quite a challenging launch lineup here. F-Zero and Gradius and Pilot Wings, all quite challenging games, I would say, with Mario World being maybe a bit on the easier side, but quite a hardcore lineup, I would say, overall.
I think Mario World's quite hard, personally, But yeah.
Yeah, no, it is hard, especially when you get to those like later Star Worlds and stuff like that. Yeah, that's really challenging stuff. But these days you can just do a save state and it feels like playing Super Meat Boy. It's great.
I think this is stronger than NES.
Yeah, I think so. I think despite the fact that we have far fewer games, I think the ones that punch here just punch really, really hard. And I would put it above it. I know there's like the breadth argument of NES, but there is games in there like that people just don't like, and I think, like, is anyone really that excited about Ice Climber? I don't know. It was good for the time, but I think it wasn't an outstanding game, and there's a few in there that feel like they are just a little bit like, oh, they're just there. Like, well, I don't even know what Stack Up is. It's probably just like a thing that it's like a mini game essentially. Probably, I don't know. Anyway. Don't talk ill of things I don't know, but anyway, I would say...
Talking of fewer games...
Yeah, oh boy.
N64.
N64, what we got, Bally?
We got... Pilot Wing 64.
Yeah.
And Mario 64.
And that's it.
That's it. I did not know this. I just assumed there were like, I don't know, 10 games. I assumed those were the two first-party Nintendo games. I thought they were going to be...
I believe N64 has the shallowest library of any Nintendo console. I think the number of games made for N64 is like 200 or something like that. Like, it's tiny. It's a really small library. And I think what you're seeing here with this launch is Nintendo losing all of their third-party partners from the Super Nintendo era, right? It's like Square Enix went bye-bye because disc-based media was much better and they went to PlayStation, and I think you can see that with quite a few of their former third-party partners who are like, nah, fuck you, we're going to Sony now. And that kind of like begins right here at the launch, which is anemic to say the least. However... I think a lot of people would argue Mario 64 is one of the best games ever, so I think that's, for certain people, that would be
apparently Cruising USA, I read online, like, it was meant to be a launch, and then there were, like, issues making it out at launch, and it got delayed, so that would have been a third, but, Pilot Wing 64 and Mario 64. I've played both. I played Pilot Wings, I don't know, a year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago maybe now at this point, and... It's a very good game. I think it holds up nicely. I don't think it holds up anywhere as nicely as Mario 64, which we obviously played as part of the 3D collection when that got put on Switch. We were both very surprised and impressed by how well it held up, considering we had only really played the DS remake, right? Like, I think
for sure, yeah,
that game is unbelievable. And the idea that this was like the first 3D game to use an analog stick to run in 3D space is era defining, like beyond belief. Like, I can't believe how strong that game is in terms of its structure. It's pure fun. It's like a good length. Like, it's a good challenge. It's not too obtuse. It's got this incredible balance. Like, I think it's, and Mario feels so slippery smooth. Like, I think it's an incredible achievement. Is it an achievement to get high up this list, be 1 or 2? I'm not sure.
I don't think so. I think the thing is, when we talk about impact, right? I do think that part of the NES's advantage is Super Mario Brothers is like big impact, right? Like, that's also massive. And so if we're balancing impact, I would say that 64 and the original probably have equal impact in terms of their shaping of the industry and their effect on the industry. Probably Mario Brothers, the original, has a bit more because it's an originator in that way.
Yeah, but you could add on top, like, but we just prefer 64. But I don't know.
We could say that. But I just, the fact that N64 is 2 games, I think it automatically almost puts it last. I think because it's just there's just nothing else to. It basically, if you're thinking about this and we think about launch, like what is the point of a launch lineup, right? What is its function? I think its function is to speak as widely as possible to as many people as possible, so that you can have something for everybody, right? You can have something for multiplayer so people can play together. You have something for single player so people want to play on their own. You want, this game, that game, right? You want things that can speak to multiple people. I think by narrowing it down to just 2 choices, you cut out so many people, and it feels like it's a less exciting launch because it's like, well, everyone's playing the same thing. There's not that idea of like, oh, well, I'm playing this and you're playing that, and then we can all talk about and get excited. I think there's a dampened excitement when you have that. So my personal argument would be put it third on the list.
I think you're probably right. I think it doesn't fulfill what a launch lineup needs to fulfill, as incredible and era-defining as Mario 64 is. I think you're making a good point that, like, arguably Mario Brothers 1 was equally as era-defining. And had another bunch of great games for the time, especially, that came out with it. So yeah, I think third is probably fair.
Yeah, I think we need to be careful here of, like, we don't just rank these based on the games that we like the most. It's a balance of that, and also how did it serve people at the time, and how good was the launch lineup as a launch lineup, you know? So just need to find a balance there, basically.
Should we go GameCube?
GameCube.
Here we go.
All right, what have we got?
Luigi's Mansion, Super Monkey Ball, Wave Race Blue Storm, All-Star Baseball 2002, Batman Vengeance, Crazy Taxi, Dave Mirra Freestyle BMX 2. Here we go. Are you ready for this? Disney's Tarzan Untamed.
Hell yes.
Madden NFL 2002, NHL Hits 2002, Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2, Rogue Leader, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3.
I think GameCube is a pretty... When you look at it compared to the ones we've looked at so far, there's a lot of things here that we've not seen yet, which is, like, significant support from other companies to put things out there that really beefs the lineup out. And yes, some of them are just terrible. Like, I don't know anything about Batman Vengeance. I imagine it's a trash video game, right? But, you know, it's an IP thing and it's there. But between...
I had forgotten Pikmin didn't make launch as well. It got delayed.
Yes, and Smash Brothers as well. So Smash is an interesting one in that it was launched for Europe because by that point it had come out, but not for America. I should say the lineups we're going through are North American focused as opposed to... Because it's just the easiest one to do because,
biggest market
was a bit fucked up back in the day. Yeah, everything was delayed, and so it kind of, if we were to do a European ranking, then Smash Brothers would be included on GameCube, and GameCube would be undefeatable. It's like not even a question, you know. But between Luigi's Mansion, Monkey Ball, Wave Race, and then Crazy Taxi, Tony Hawk, Star Wars, Rogue Squadron, and then you've got the sports things for the casual fans. I think this is a pretty fucking banger lineup. Looking at back in context, you know. Yeah,
it's incredible. And, you know, so at launch, I picked up Luigi's Mansion, Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. And at the time, arguably, I bounced off all three of them, actually. I really enjoyed Star Wars, but I just found it so challenging. I couldn't get past the next level. This was kind of in the era before you could like look up guides online easily enough and stuff. We weren't doing that frequently, I would argue, back then. It was like a
very, very challenging game, you know?
Yeah, and you know, it wasn't until like Wind Waker we were like, guides exist, we can print them out, we can use highlighters, we can do this. It wasn't really like, oh, just look it up on my phone like I would now and get past the tricky level. So I definitely bounced off all three games and I've never gone back to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, but I've gone back to Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2, and I've gone back to Luigi's Mansion since, and they're phenomenal games. Obviously, we both love Super Monkey Ball. I've also gone back to Wave Race Blue Storm and absolutely love that game. That is my favorite game on this list. And come on, how can you discount Disney's Tarzan Untamed? This is the game I played. It's like
this is the one.
This is the one. I've just googled like images of it, and it's definitely the one because it's sort of
holy shit
mini game focused, weird game.
Right. It's your Mario Party for the launch, basically. You know, essentially.
It's my Mario Party. Like it's
You played Crazy Taxi on GameCube as well, right?
No. I played.
Simpsons I swear you played Crazy.
I played Simpsons
Taxi
Road
on
Rage.
Okay.
But
all right. Yeah. Well, similar enough.
Yeah.
I mean, this is my number one so far.
I think, from the way you were defining it before, of like, you know, who does this appeal to? I agree, but then there's also nostalgia with this list, and then on top of that, I think there's high quality games we've gone back to and enjoyed a ton. And I think
just it's a quantity of high quality games is what it is for me, right? Like. If we had more Batman Vengeances on this list and we just had Luigi's Mansion and, I don't know, Rogue Squadron, then it would be a harder debate to have. But between the third-party kind of like really high-quality stuff, you know, stuff like Crazy Taxi, which we've not played but know is high quality.
Yes.
And, you know, first-party bangers in Luigi's Mansion and Wave Race, and obviously Super Monkey Ball almost feels like a first-party game because it's so associated with the GameCube and like super high quality.
Same with like Star Wars Rogue Squadron, like that's very GameCube.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and a lot of people decry the GameCube because it didn't have a Mario game at launch and was the first system, as we've just gone through, that doesn't have a Mario game at launch. But I think it
like, think about like how they've not gone with Mario this time, and they've gone with Mario Kart for launch, obviously. But then DK's kind of the first big first-party non-multiplayer game that's coming July.
Right.
Think how big of a deal it was for GameCube that it's like, screw Mario, it's time for Luigi. Like, we're doing Luigi's Mansion, and there's no jumping. Right. We're in a ghost haunted mansion. It was just like such a jarring. Oh, well, okay, right, this is different.
Really big left turn for sure, but worked out. So, yeah, let's have GameCube top of the list, I think.
Right, top of the list, I agree. So GameCube first, SNES second, NES third, and then 64 fourth so far. Right, on to Wii. Here we go. It's
the Wii.
Bit of a longer list. Right, you ready? Wii Sports, obviously bundled with the console. The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, Excite Truck, Avatar The Last Airbender, Call of Duty 3, Cars, Dragon Ball Z, Budokai Tenkaichi 2, Elebits, I forgot that was launched, GT Pro Series, Happy Feet, Madden NFL 2007, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, Monster 4x4 World Circuit, Need for Speed Carbon, Rampage Total Destruction, Rayman Raving Rabbids, Red Steel, SpongeBob SquarePants, Creature from the Krusty Krab, Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz, Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam, Trauma Center, Second Opinion. Okay,
very, very long list here.
You need a colon to be a title for the Wii launch, apparently. There's a whole lot of colons.
Yeah, that's all that they had. Yeah, definitely.
And there's also games that just are the movie name. Happy Feet. There's no like,
of course,
Happy Feet, there's something else. It's just, this is just a movie tie-in. Boom, launch.
That's it. Yeah. So I mean, I have, as we talked about, very fond memories of the Wii's launch. I think that it's one of those that had a lot of stuff going for it. I guess this list doesn't have Wii Play on it, but Wii Play should be on this list. Not sure why that wasn't included, but anyway, there's definitely the standout games, of course. Wii Sports and Twilight Princess, I think, are a pretty banger kind of like double whammy of here's the casual multiplayer game for everybody, here's the hardcore title for the Nintendo faithful.
Probably quite a drop after those two, but
yeah. Then you have Excite Truck, which I think is fantastic and one of my favorite games on the system for sure, and it's a racing game, so it's achieving a different thing. And I think the rest of it does feel, you can almost feel the Wii's entire generation in this launch lineup, right? Which is a small handful of very high quality Nintendo games, and then a glut of just shovelware, right? Just a glut of garbage that was just dumped all over the place. And then, some games from franchises that didn't quite hit a peak, right? Like Banana Blitz is a decent Monkey Ball game, and it has those fun mini games, but it's nowhere close to the quality of the original Monkey Ball.
Almost broke your window.
Exactly. Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam, it's like, okay, it's not Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, is it? Like, you have reflections of the GameCube launch lineup here, but they're inferior reflections.
Rayman Raving Rabbids. It's like a Rayman game, but we're gonna go for mini games because Right, exactly. Let's use the gimmick of the controller and do stupid stuff with it. And Red Steel is a game that I think people thought was cool at the time, but like I think over the eras, people have come to the realization Red Steel wasn't that great, So I do think it is dragged down by. I think if we're thinking about this, like, what's the strength of a launch lineup, right? Part of it is having a breadth of stuff for people to pick up. Part of a weakness, I would say, of the Wii launch lineup is you could accidentally buy your child a terrible video game, You could accidentally give them a really bad Christmas. Harder to do for GameCube.
Much harder to do for GameCube, because, like, far less good to bad ratio, whereas good to bad ratio on Wii is far more in favor of bad than it is good, despite the good being really, really good, which I would argue those top three games are really, really good. They're some of the best on the system. Good. So yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
I agree. I'm just looking at the ranking, thinking where we think it might sit nicely, and I think we're agreed it's not as good as GameCube.
Yeah, I think so.
Definitely better than 64, I think. So
yeah, of course.
It's about where it comes between Super Nintendo and NES.
Yeah, I think the thing about Super Nintendo is it has 5 high quality games, And I think that's more than the Wii, if we're just going to put that down to it, is like, how many high-quality games are there? There's 3 for Wii, and they're all really good, but I think the glut of shovelware there is just the thing that drags it down a little bit for me. So I would still probably put it above NES, just because NES also doesn't have shovelware, but it has like games that were not very good because of game design back then in that era, alongside some very, very good stuff. But I think that part of the launch lineup as well, and part of the excitement is also like the newness of it and the control scheme and all of I think Wii Sports, we can't count out the impact of that and like how outsized it was at the time, and how it broadened the audience for people, right? So I think for me that puts it above NES.
I think I agree. I think Wii Sports is it's up there with Mario 64 and Super Mario Brothers, right? In terms of maybe it was like very impactful at the time. Maybe it hasn't aged as well as those other two in terms of in the minds of like capital G gamers, but it's still such an important game in the history of Nintendo and launch lineup. So but above NES, below Super NES.
Yeah, so that would make it number 3.
Number 3. Let's go there.
Yeah, that sounds
Talking
good.
of shovelware.
Oh boy.
I feel like with the Wii U, they hadn't worked out that this is a different system to the Wii. Because this is a very Wii-like launch lineup. Right, here we go. It's also much longer. Right. Wii U, we've got New Super Mario Bros. U, Nintendo Land, Sing Party, Assassin's Creed 3, Batman Arkham City Armored Edition, Call of Duty Black Ops 2, Darksiders 2, Disney Epic Mickey 2, The Power of 2, FIFA Soccer 13, Game Party Champions, Just Dance 4, Madden NFL 13, Mass Effect 3 Special Edition, NBA 2K 13, Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge, Rabbids Land, Scribblenauts Unlimited, Skylanders Giants, Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, Tank, Tekken Tag Tournament 2 Wii U Edition, Transformers Prime The Game, Warriors Orochi 3 Hyper, Wipeout 3, Your Shape Fitness Evolved 2013, and Zombie U.
Say Tank, Tekken Tag Tournament 2 5 times fast,
Yes.
So I think Wii U is interesting, and I don't 100% agree with your assertion about shovelware, because
it's
a lot of
you're right.
A lot of the games are not shovelware; they are just late to the party.
Yeah.
Which is to say, there's actually a lot of high-quality third-party games here, right? Darksiders 2 is very good. Arkham City is an amazing game. Assassin's Creed 3 is some people like it. But like the fact that all these games had existed in some cases for years, and Nintendo just like trying to put a new brush of paint on them and be like, hey guys, we also have 360 and PS3 games, like multiple years into those consoles' life cycles. I think it just spoke badly of where they were at, and what kind of support they were getting. And for a lot of people, there weren't that many people who were just owning a Nintendo console at this point, because the Wii had kind of changed the audience, changed the shape of it. So I feel like a lot of former Nintendo fans had gone over to other platforms already, and a lot of those people were not going to be wooed back by games they'd already played before, right? Which I think is what this lineup is largely made up of. There's a handful of games that are third-party that already existed. There's a handful of third-party games that were just kind of like party-style, kind of more casual stuff as well. And then you have like 2 Nintendo titles that are really good, but I don't think like of the highest caliber compared to the rest of the launch lineups that we've seen so far. Yeah.
What is a FIFA Soccer 13? Is that just the name for FIFA? Like, is that the full title?
Maybe in America they call it FIFA Soccer instead of just FIFA.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, that could be the case. Is my guess anyway.
Yeah, I agree, and it's kind of like Arkham City had been out quite a while, right? A couple of years by the point.
I think at least a couple. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Now maybe if you compare that to Switch 2, some of the games that we'll get to when we get there are have been a couple of years old, but I think the difference is that they're kind of industry defining. Well, that's maybe an overstatement slightly, but they're very, very high quality industry important games compared to the games coming out so late to Wii U. Like, yeah, I don't know how to feel about this. And it's not helped by, as you say, Mario Bros. U and Nintendo Land, both good games, not grabbing everyone's hearts in the same way as some of these other first parties. So,
but I should say that like we love Nintendo.
We
Land.
absolutely love Nintendo Land.
That definitely gives it a bit of a leg up for certain. So there's that factor to it. I think, I don't know, I feel like the exclusive stuff of like Zombie U, like neither of us are horror people, so that did nothing for us. So it kind of we lost a bit of a launch title in that way.
I feel like it's either one above or one below Wii, and I'm feeling like it might be one below. Mainly because Wii Sports and Twilight Princess are better first-party combo than Nintendo Land and Mario Bros. U.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's exactly the right place for it. I do think that the fact that its games are still quality, right, and that you can't take away from like Batman Arkham City. It's a good video game. Like it's not taking away from the lineup, but I think that Wii overall just has a stronger footprint and more trash, but yeah, better Nintendo first party stuff, which I think just kind of cements it slightly higher for me. So yeah, it's a bit of a trade-off, bit of a balance. I think the quality overall of the Wii U lineup is higher, but I think the impact is stronger with the Wii, and I think overall the excitement was much higher. Like, I mean, the fact that you didn't buy a Wii U at launch, I think speaks volumes to its launch lineup, you know?
Good point.
So I would put it below Wii.
Yeah, one below Wii. So it's in fourth, above the NES and the N64. Right, onto Switch.
I think so.
This lineup is a lot shorter than I thought it was, but here we go.
It's quite tiny, isn't it? Yeah, which, like, I was like, was the eShop did it only have these games when it launched? Like, yeah, I guess it did, which is kind of crazy.
Now it's got thousands upon thousands upon thousands.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
We've got The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, 1-2 Switch, Super Bomberman R, Just Dance 2017, Skylanders Imaginators, Fast RMX, Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, Shovel Knight Spectre of Torment, Snipper Clips Cut It Out Together, I Am Setsuna.
So this is a really interesting one in that it has the best game ever made and then a bunch of not good stuff, really, you know? And then, okay, there's a couple of cool things here.
There's decent quality. Shovel Knight and Snipper Clips are high quality games.
So Shovel Knight doesn't fucking count because it's a port of Shovel Knight. It's just as good as Batman Arkham City is, you know? Like, that's the Arkham City of this list. 1-2 Switch is a fun distraction, but like the weakest of the party games by far when it comes to Nintendo's like, here's a hardcore.
Compared to Wii Sports and Wii Play, it's weaker than those for sure. And Nintendo Land.
Right, like if we think about like, yeah, exactly. Like Wii U Switch, Nintendo Land and Wii Sports are fucking eras above 1-2 Switch. Like 1-2 Switch is like pissing at the bottom of a well compared to those games, you know?
Content.
So I think it's really, really not very good. So I think Fast RMX and Snipper Clips are two standout games here of like, hey, you got this really cool indie that's kind of doing F-Zero, and you've got Snipper Clips, which is a really great...
It's also a re-release from Wii U though, right?
I think this is a new game.
I'm pretty sure it's a port, but...
okay, we might have to double check that. But I'm pretty sure Fast RMX is a brand new game.
Let me have a Google. You keep chatting.
Because Fast Racing Neo was the previous game, and then Fast RMX was the follow-up that was on Switch. And I bought Fast RMX because I didn't have it on, or I didn't play the previous one, I believe, on Wii U. But maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe Fast Racing Neo...
It includes all the courses and downloadable content from the original game.
Okay. So maybe Fast Racing Neo was on Wii.
Fast Racing Neo was Wii U, wasn't it?
Right, Fast Racing Neo was Wii U.
Yeah.
So Fast RMX is like a version of Fast Racing Neo, is what you're saying?
Yes. Port is not correct. It's like extra special version with new stuff.
Right. Okay.
Is how I would probably.
Okay, so it's not a unique game in that sense. In that case, like I think the two games of note here are Breath of the Wild and Snipper Clips, which is an interesting two games.
Both good games.
To be of note.
Both good games.
Yeah, you like Snipper Clips, right?
I did enjoy Snipper Clips. It had a weird effect that rocked to the screen back and forward that made Caroline feel ill. That is just the most random thing for that game. But yeah.
So
It's
I
not
mean,
good.
there's something N64ish about the Switch lineup, right? Like Mario 64 and Breath of the Wild are kind of like similar in that.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say they're similar in that they're just like era-defining masterpieces, right? But
Yes.
as a launch lineup, the Switch is actually pretty shit, if I'm honest. And I do remember that year being like, oh my god, when are they going to put anything on the eShop? Like, there's nothing coming out.
It's hilarious how successful the Switch is now compared to how cautious parties were at launch. Like, there's none, barely any. Like,
zero.
Just Dance.
I mean, you're coming off the Wii U, so it's inevitable, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it says how much a single generation can do.
But Wii U, like, there's quite a lot of backing in terms of third party. Now, a lot of it, as we said, was like delayed and this kind of thing, but there's still a quantity of fairly decent stuff when you think about like Sonic All-Stars Racing, this kind of thing. Like, there's stuff in there.
Right, and I think it's because the Wii was a mega success, right? And so people are like, oh, maybe we should do a bit more than Nintendo's next console. It was terrible and didn't go well, and then they're like, well, we're not making that mistake again, except it was a mistake to make the mistake again, so...
Is Switch second bottom?
I don't know. I don't think it is.
Okay.
I think it's better than...
How much can we lean on Breath of the Wild is actually the best game ever created and deserves...
Right.
Or is it just a delayed Wii U game?
Honestly, Bally, you know what? You've made an excellent point that has made me reconsider my entire stance on this issue. The fact that Breath of the Wild also came out on Wii U and was not actually an exclusive Switch title makes that launch lineup actually weaker in my mind.
Do we need that same logic for Twilight Princess?
That's a good point. The thing is,
Wii Sports is a much better crutch than snipper clips and 1-2 switch, right?
Wii Sports is super, super strong. Exactly. Yeah, totally. Wii Sports like carries. Also, you have Excite Truck as well. So I think both of those are better balanced, generally speaking. I almost want to be a maverick and say it's below Wii U, but I'm not sure I can do that. so
let's look at Wii U again. Let me have a think about this, because...
I mean, Nintendo Land is great. Super Mario Brothers U is like fine. It's I do think the power of Breath of the Wild.
Nintendo Land is stronger than any game after Breath of the Wild.
You're right. Yes, you are right. However, I think Breath of the Wild probably is strong enough to defeat Nintendo Land and Mario U in a competition together. Like if they were playing tennis and it was 2v1, Breath of the Wild would destroy both of those guys. So I do think, despite the fact that, yes, Breath of the Wild is actually a Wii U game.
Okay, here's a good question. Right. Yeah. Say Breath of the Wild's development meant that it came out on Wii U only. This is quite hard to believe because they would always like port that to next. Let's pretend they didn't.
Yeah.
What Wii U game would they have made a launch game, first party, that isn't there otherwise, that they might have put more development resources into to bring forward to launch? Are we thinking...
I think they might have just
Splatoon,
had to...
Mario Kart?
No, I think what would have happened is they would have accelerated their launch of Odyssey, right? I think because they had Zelda, they could hold on Odyssey, and then they could have deployed that as a launch title instead, Right. That's my guess anyway. But
Odyssey was October, and it was released in...
It was later
May,
in the year,
right.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Let's say it was Odyssey instead of Breath of the Wild, and it was that list of games.
It's still not great, is it?
No, exactly, right? I think...
Yeah. Is Switch...
It's either one above or one below Wii U, I'm feeling.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Think about your excitement for each of these launches.
Yes.
I was still more excited for the Switch launch than I was the Wii U. Because...
100%.
We
love Zelda, and they were doing something so radical, and on top of that, the hardware pitch of handheld. We're both quite handheld gamers, especially yourself.
Right.
The idea that...
And I do think...
Go ahead.
There is the other games here, there is still stuff for other people there, right? Like, if you didn't play Shovel Knight and you didn't get to it, that's an excellent game. I would argue, better than Batman Arkham, as like a third-party thing for people to play. Sniffer Clips had the multiplayer factor, using the two Joy-Cons and having a co-op experience, right? Kids love Skylanders, right? I do think it is anemic, but I do think that the quality bar is still just a little higher maybe than what we had for Wii U. So yeah,
one above Wii U then.
One above Wii U. Yeah.
I feel like we are rolling a bit of hardware into this, but it's kind of hard not to, I guess. But
yeah, you kind of have to take it as a whole, don't you?
Yeah.
So that does it for the current released platforms. We can talk about Switch 2, Bally, and we can go into it. I don't think we should rank Switch 2 because we haven't played any of the games yet, so we don't yet know what the quality bar is here. I mean, for some of them we do, because most of them are games that have already come out. But do you want to run down our list of launch lineups?
I think it'll be very important and interesting how well the third-party stuff runs, because I think that's a question that needs answered. Okay, so the launch lineup for the Switch 2 on Thursday is Mario Kart World, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild Nintendo Switch 2 Edition, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Nintendo Switch 2 Edition, Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, banger, Deltarune Chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4, Split Fiction, Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition, Street Fighter 6 Official Years 1-2 Edition, Kunutsugami Path of the Goddess, Sid Meier Civilization 7 Nintendo Switch 2 Edition, Hogwarts Legacy, Bravely Default Flying Fairy HD Remaster, Yakuza 0 Director's Cut, Fortnite, Fast Fusion, Hitman World of Assassination, Signature Edition, Nobunaga's Ambition Awakening Complete Edition, Survival Kids, Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma, Arcade Archives 2 Ridge Racer, and Puyo Puyo Tetris 2S.
Okay.
Why is Fortnite on this list?
Well, it's a game that's coming at launch. You can play it. That's Switch 2.
That's very true.
So Switch 2 edition. So
weird list.
I think that there are 4 new things on this list. So we got Mario Kart World. We have chapters 3 and 4 of Deltarune, because 1 and 2 already exist. There's Switch 2 Welcome Tour. I think Fast Fusion is new, right? I'm pretty sure that's a new Fast game.
Right.
Rune Factory just came out, because I just watched a review of it today on NWR. Survival Kids, I think, is going to be new when it comes out on Switch 2. And then maybe Puyo Puyo Tetris 2S. So I think there's 6 games that you couldn't play anywhere else before the launch day.
It's actually quite Switch-like, yeah.
Yeah, so it's actually, pretty similar in that way. And it's hard to say here, because there's a huge amount of quality when it comes to the third-party lineup. Like, some all-time games here, like Cyberpunk, right? And Split Fiction, and Civ 7, and Bravely Default, Yakuza 0, for God's sake, Hitman. Like, these are big names, big third-party titles that have never been on a Nintendo console before. And according to a lot of previews, they work really well, and some of them have mouse functionality, you know, Civ 7, all that sort of stuff. Like, feels like it's well-positioned. And also, you can play Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom at 60 frames a second, which is
very
nice.
cool.
But if we're talking about excitement, I will say this is the least excited I've ever been for a Nintendo console launch. Part of that is
being
I'm getting old, and so cynical, crusty. But I do think part of it is, other part of it is it's a iterative console, right? It's the first time Nintendo put 2 on the end of a console, which by its very nature says a lot about it. But yeah, I do think launch lineup has something to do with it. If this had Donkey Kong Bonanza on day 1, I think I'd be a lot more excited about Switch 2.
Yeah.
You know, I'd be like, oh, I've got my big thing to dig into, and then I'll dip into Mario Kart World.
The lighter thing you can bounce between. Yeah.
Exactly. I can bounce between 2 things.
You got your Wii Sports and your Twilight Princess. And this time we've just got our Wii Sports equivalent.
Exactly. And I think that, like, that, if we look back on, you know, that kind of, like, run of consoles, we had, and, you know, Switch is a weaker one, but we had Wii Sports and Twilight Princess. Then we had Mario U and Nintendo Land. Then we had Zelda and 1-2 Switch, right? They usually pair a really big single-player offering with a casual thing. and the lack of single player.
Is Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour not the hardcore first party solo thing?
Well, see, this is the thing. Welcome Tour is the 1-2 Switch, and Mario Kart World is the
Wii Sports.
Is the Wii Sports. So like there is no equivalent here, and I guess the equivalent is play the 2 Zelda games again, right? It's like, what's our big single player? Well, it's those games you already put 150 hours into, I guess. Yeah, I mean, the most exciting single player thing for me is Deltarune chapters 3 and 4. You know, like I don't know. That's like I could play Deltarune chapters 3 and 4 on a toaster. Like I don't need a powerful piece of hardware to do that. So it is an interesting one for sure. And I don't know where it'll land. I feel like my verdict would probably be somewhere around Wii and Switch. You know, like it probably lands in that area most likely. Just because the quality of the third-party stuff is quite high. But it comes down to how good is Mario Kart, ultimately. I think that will speak to it at the end of the day. What do you think, Valley?
Yes, I think it's just like DK could have, should have, would have been launched. I guess they just want that second marketing beat, and that's understandable. But we're gonna play the chill casual thing for a while, and that'll be very fun in Mario Kart World. We're probably not going to engage in a ton else, as you say. We're going to play some Deltarune Chapter 3 and 4. When you've got the shiny new piece of kit, you don't really want to be playing a game like Deltarune.
No. I want to see like what does all these high quality games look like,
right, yeah.
Which means I'll probably jump back to Tears. It's an excuse to play Tears of the Kingdom.
And
I guess,
definitely I 100%ed Breath of the Wild more than Tears of the Kingdom, so there's definitely more I could go back to with Tears of the Kingdom if I wanted to. And then there's the carrot of like, do I start Breath of the Wild again from scratch? Is that probably not something I do this year, but something that I might do at some point that could give it a go. It's a weird feeling, and you know, all these other third-party games that have been very successful on other platforms, and they've got Switch 2 editions. I really hope they run well. I hope they sell quite well. And from a personal perspective, as someone who's not very close to owning like a gaming PC, I'd be very interested in something that's Sid Meier's Civilization. So if that was a good version of the game and runs well and people approve of the mouse functionality, for example, I've heard that you can plug a USB mouse into the Switch too. I don't know if that's confirmed. So that would be quite interesting, where I could try and play that more like a PC game and plug in my USB mouse and not have to worry about my hand getting cramped as much. I'd like to try that if I had a bit more time than I have right now. That's definitely something on my list I'd like to try doing. So
you know, you could go full sicko mode. You could buy the Steam Deck dock and connect a keyboard and a mouse to it, and then you're really playing a PC, Valley. You know,
but that's an interesting point, because I wonder how that would run compared to the Switch 2, right? Like I think that's a similar power level, and I want to see what version might run better. And obviously I'd want to play on Switch because it's a new shiny thing. I want to play that. But I think that's an interesting point. Like I think when we were doing predictions about the Switch 2 previously, you were very skeptical, MBZ, that this thing would have the power to do 4K 60 and be handheld, you know, anything past 60 frames per second. And the fact that they're guaranteeing 4K 60 docked and 1080p 120 handheld.
Yeah, the fact that they said the phrase 120 frames a second in that Nintendo Direct,
shocking.
that broke my world entirely. I was like, what do you mean you're not supposed to know those words, Nintendo? And then they just said them. They just said them out loud. So, I mean, yeah. Of course, I will play Metroid Prime 4 Beyond at 120 frames per second. What are you talking about? Yes, that's exactly what I would like to do.
Does Mario Kart World run 120? I don't believe so.
I don't think it does.
But still,
no,
60 handheld for Mario Kart, it's going to feel pretty cool. I
mean, already you can play 60 handheld with the current Mario Kart, but of course, it's an open world Mario Kart, so it's slightly different in that sense. So, fingers crossed. All right, Ballard, do you want to run through our list from 7 to 1 for our ranking?
Number 7, the N64. Number 6, the NES. Number 5, the Wii U. Number 4, the Nintendo Switch. Number 3, the Wii. Number 2, the SNES. And number 1, the GameCube.
when you look at GameCube, it is kind of shocking how high quality that launch is in terms really of good. How many really good games there are, you know?
I think it's interesting because at the time we weren't bothered about Crazy Taxi, but here we are in 2025 and people are unbelievably nostalgic for that game.
Yeah.
And I personally absolutely love, obviously, that Wave Race and, you know, but I think that these other games, like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater is another good example of a game that people are crazy nostalgic for, and we're getting the remake of that 3 and 4 this year, right? Like it's big. I'm another person who really wants the Factor 5 Star Wars games to come back. Like I think people are very nostalgic about those games and think they're very, very high quality. Like I think there's just very high quality stuff in there that's not just Nintendo first party, but there's still enough Nintendo first party that is high quality, and that's something that it seems all the other systems can't quite balance. I think this is GameCube nailed it, and they interestingly, the GameCube was nowhere near the best seller out of all these systems, but I think as a launch lineup, it's pretty special.
Yeah, definitely. I think that you have this kind of modern phenomenon, right? The Wii U onwards, where you look at it and you're like, gosh, there are so many like games that already exist that are part of launch lineups now, and it's I think it inherently makes it less exciting. Of like, this game came out 3 years ago. Now you can play it on your system, you know, like, and that's kind of been a staple in the modern era of Nintendo. Of as they have gotten more popular with the Switch generation, most of the things that people, you know, announce for it or put on it is, well, we have this game that already exists, and part of this is just the cost of game development, right? Like we're far past the era of Ubisoft making exclusive games for a Nintendo launch, and it's one of the most shocking things about the Switch 2's launch is, like, there is no Ubisoft representation of like, here we are with a brand new game custom built for the Switch, like a Rayman thing or something, right? Like, it's kind of it says a lot about where the industry is at right now that we don't have those things, you know. It just hasn't happened. So yeah, definitely makes things a little less exciting to some degree. But I don't know, I feel like if you're someone who only owned a Switch the whole generation, that Switch 2 lineup is pretty fucking great for you, you know? Like, there's loads of games here that have never been playable before on Nintendo platforms, and I think it was, franchises that people have not had access to.
I think Chris Scully, and he's always one of these people these days who's lacking in time, has a kid and this kind of thing, and there's a few first party games he's waited on, one of them being Tears of the Kingdom, and he's now going to play that for the first time, like 60 FPS 4K. It's like, that would have been really cool. Like, you know, people love Tears of the Kingdom, we love Tears of the Kingdom, but like, you know, it's 30. It is on the Switch. It ran fine on Switch, but it'll be so much better on Switch too. I think that's a good example.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there are people out there for whom the Switch 2 launch is going to be very exciting. And you know, I'm still excited. I want to play it. I want to see what's going on with it, but I do think that I'm just kind of waiting. I'm waiting for Nintendo to say something in another Direct, which supposedly was going to happen soon, and then we'll find out the rest of this year.
It's going to be June, July Direct for sure.
Because I think, you know, they've been cooking for so long. Yeah. They have a lot of stuff just hidden away that they're not telling us about, and I have some thoughts that we will get some good stuff soon for the rest of the year upcoming with the Nintendo Switch 2. But that is going to do us for this show, this segment, everything going on right now. So let's get on out of here. Obviously, you can help support the show in a few different ways, but one of those is going directly to Patreon, patreon.com/ThisNintendoLife, where you can go and support us and get extra episodes and all that fun stuff. And Bally would like to thank some of our supporters.
Yes, thank you to our $10 tier plus patrons. They are Zach S., Thomas, Matthew, Albert, Wicked Gamer UK Alan, Turtle, Orange Thunder, Nintendo Man, and Ali T. Thank you for all your support. Thank you also to all of our other patrons. We really, really appreciate all the support you give the show. We've got an episode of ThisNintendoLife coming up, and we're going to talk about some of the announcements from Summer Game Fest. So that's all to look forward to.
Xbox has their show. There's Jeff's show, of course, and I'm sure there'll be lots of things too.
Are you glad you're not a video game journalist getting shoved on a plane without your Switch 2?
Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy that I get to get my Switch 2, sit there playing Mario Kart, and just watch all these shows the whole weekend. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. So, yeah. Very excited about it. Obviously, you can find the show in various places, such as on Stitcher or on Spotify or on any podcasting app that you can download. And just search for This Nintendo Life, you'll find us, and we'll hop into your feed every couple of weeks. It's wonderful, it's easy, it's great. Please do that, and please review us on those platforms as well. It really helps. You can click the 5-star thing on Pocket Cast directly. You just click it and it does it, which is very nice. So please do that, and please review us on Spotify as well. That'd be super nice. You can obviously find us on the internet in various places. I am at NBZ on Blue Sky. Bally, where can they find you?
I'm at Ballyman91. That's BALLYMAN91 on Blue Sky. Go follow me on there.
And you can also find the podcast account at TNL Podcast, where we'll give you updates such as this episode being delayed, so that's good. So yes, that is a good place to find us.
I think we should put out a shout for some emails about the Switch 2.
We should. Absolutely. We'd love to hear your thoughts, your launch stories, all that good fun stuff. Email the podcast, and where can they do that, Mally?
Please email thisnintendolife@gmail.com. That is thisnintendolife@gmail.com. Or you can post in our Discord server. We have a channel called Emails. Go post your question over there. We want to hear your Switch 2 thoughts, your questions. We'll cover them next time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's it. That's everything. So, this is it, Bally. We're signing off. Next time we talk,
for the last time,
it'll be a brand new
without the Switch 2.
That's it. It'll be a brand new generation, brand new time, and we'll go in depth on it. So look forward to that when it comes. Until then, thank you so much, everybody, for listening. We'll see you soon. Bye bye. The musical interlude used on today's show was Horlage, The Clockwork Realm from Sea of Stars. Copyright Sabotage Studio 2025.